Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 104 of BrewTalk with Mr.Beer. My name is Robert Lewis. I am once again your host for today's show. We appreciate you guys taking the time to tune in and watch our video today, and hopefully you watched some of our past videos. Hopefully you've enjoyed them and find them informative and useful. If you want to reference our notes for this video or any of our past 103 videos, you can find those on our blog page, Mr.Beer.com/blog, or just go to Mr.Beer.com. On the menu, there's a blog button there. We also got a bunch of written articles on there. It's a great place to kind of find some different knowledge. We got some cool recipes on there to use with like your spent grains or with your trub, some stuff like that. There's a search feature on there. So if you got questions and we're unavailable this weekend, head on over to the blog, search your question. You might find your answer in there. So today's topic is how to add flavoring to your bottles. That would be a good topic to come up, I think, with spring and summer coming up. A lot of people like to do some of those fruitier beers, and you can either add fruit into your fermenter, or you can add certain flavors into your bottle to really get those, or to really have it, those flavors very present in the beer, because sometimes they can ferment out a little bit when you're adding them during fermentation. So it's something I thought would be useful. There are a few things that you should know when adding flavoring to your bottles. So I want to kind of go through what those are first, and then we'll kind of get into the best way to add it and kind of what some ones that we recommend you guys use. So when it comes to adding flavoring to your bottle, you can pretty much add anything you want for the most part. We did a video a while back about some of the best ones to add. So if you want to reference that, I think the best way to find that would just be go to our YouTube page. And I think it's called different types of bottling adjuncts, I think. But some of the things that we find the best to add to your bottle are things like honey or maple syrup, vanilla extract, coffee, espresso shots. Whiskey's a good one, especially in the wintertime. Just came out of that, but whiskey's a good one. And the Monin flavor syrup, which is really good. So there are a few things to note. If you're adding something like honey or maple syrup or anything that's not going to be heated, you want to make sure that you are using a fresh bottle. So you don't want to open like a bottle of honey that's been sitting in your pantry for like 6 months and it's got crusties all on it and all that. You don't want to add that to your bottle. There's a chance that it could harbor some type of bacteria in there, something that could possibly contaminate your beer. I mean, the chances are usually pretty low, but we recommend when you're going to add something like honey or maple syrup or anything that's kind of sweet and sticky that kind of just sits in your pantry, try to get a new bottle before you do that. That just helps prevent all that, so it's good to go. When you're adding something like coffee, obviously if you're doing coffee and you brew it, let it chill before you do that. Cold brew coffee is a great thing to add. If you're doing like espresso shots, just make sure that you chill them to at least room temp before you add them. Another thing to note when you're using different whiskeys, which is awesome to experiment with, we recommend adding no more than basically like a shot per bottle per 740 milliliter bottle. If you add too much whiskey, it can kill the yeast, and when you go to bottling, then you won't get any carbonation in your beer. So recommend adding about that. It's playing with different flavor whiskeys and different styles is a really cool thing to do, especially in like the stouts and porters. But if you want to get super crazy with a light beer and really try some, some blonde ale whiskey or something, that'll work out pretty good. And one more thing to note, so if you're adding anything that contains sugar, such as like honey or maple syrup or anything like that, you do not want to add your priming sugar to your bottles because those already have sugar in those. So that fermentable sugar that's in the honey or in the maple syrup is what the yeast will eat up to create the CO2 in your beer. So that was how your beer will carbonate. A ratio we usually go on the office is a 1-to-1 ratio. So if your bottle calls for 2 teaspoons of sugar for carbonation, then you would add 2 teaspoons of honey instead for carbonation. So you're going to get the CO2 as well as some of that honey flavor. And obviously if you want to add a little more, you can to get a little more honey flavor, but just be advised you might get you could get a over carbonated beer. So just, be careful when it comes to that one. And then if you're using the flavor syrups, they work really well. All kinds of different flavors. Sometimes they're sugar-free, sometimes they're not. So check if you're using one that's sugar-free, make sure you're adding carbonation drops or sugar to your bottle. If you're using one that has sugar in it, then you don't need to do that, and you want to follow the same 1-to-1 ratio. So now when adding these sugars to your bottles, or these adjuncts to your bottles, these flavorings to your bottles. It's actually very easy. It doesn't really change the bottling process. I think a lot of people, they think about, oh, I want to add honey to my bottle, or I want to add maple syrup. How exactly do I do that, or what do I do? It's very simple. Process doesn't really change at all. You're going to sanitize your bottles, all your stuff like that, like you usually do. You're all good to go. And if you're adding something such as like honey or maple syrup, you're going to add your 2 teaspoons of honey to your 740 milliliter bottles. You're going to fill them up with beer, cap it. That's it. Just like the regular bottling process, you just don't add your sugar in that one. Very straightforward. Make sure you're using a new bottle of honey. You're good to go. If you're adding something that does not have sugar, like coffee or whiskey, for example, you want to add your carbonation drops with sugar. Then you want to add whatever flavoring you have. So if you're adding coffee, dump in your coffee. If you're using whiskey, add in your whiskey. If you're using vanilla, add in your vanilla, or vanilla extract, I should say. Then you're going to fill it up with beer and cap it. Very simple. So it's a, it's a great way to experiment with different flavors, and it's not very intimidating. I think a lot of people, like I said earlier, find the process or the potential of the process to be overwhelming, but adding flavors to your bottles is really simple. And it's a cool way to experiment with flavors. So if you're brewing something like our Classic American Light, American Lager, Canadian Blonde, those really lighter beers, you want to experiment with some different fruit flavors in those beers, get some different flavor syrups and add, 3 bottles of this, 3 bottles of that, 3 bottles of this, and just make sure you're marking what you're using. It's a great way to kind of see, you'll get a raspberry, a strawberry, a blueberry, and like a blackberry or something like that. It's a cool way to try different experiments and see what you like and what you don't like. And it's, like I said earlier, it's great for spring, great for summer. They're very refreshing style beers. Yeah, that's going to wrap it up for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. Like I said, it's a very task that sounds daunting, but it's very simple. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like the video. We appreciate that. Comment if you got any questions, or if you can share it on Facebook, share it. We really appreciate it. Make sure you guys are following us on our main social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We're just at Mr.Beer. We do like to share your guys' posts on Instagram. So if you're posting on Instagram, please make sure to tag us. We love seeing those brewing pics, and hopefully we'll get back to some brewing videos on YouTube here pretty soon, which we're looking forward to. And also, speaking of social media, if you want to kind of join fellow-minded brewers, join our Facebook group, Mr. Beer's Brewing Society. Just go to Facebook, search Mr. Beer's Brewing Society, and we ask that you answer 3 questions. If you do that, we'll let you in. We let people in batches about once or twice a week. It's a really great place to see different recipes, talk about brewing, talk about Mr. Beer. We get a lot of Mr. Beer employees are in there as well, so it's a cool place to hang out and be with like-minded brewers. So it's going to wrap it up for this week. Hopefully you guys have a great weekend. Hopefully you enjoy our special sale we got coming up on Friday, one we haven't ran in a very long time. So keep an eye on your inboxes for that. And I will talk to you guys next week. Cheers.